I'm here with Mr. Phil Demetro from Lacquer Channel Mastering, one of Canada's most legendary mastering studios. How's it going, Phil?
Hi, Glenn. It's going great. Thanks for having me here today. This is awesome.
So tell us a little bit about what Lacquer Channel is all about. How long has it been around? Who's been in here? That kind of thing.
Lacquer Channel, it goes back a long way till probably back as far as 1974 when it was a mastering studio at Phase 1 Recording Studios, which is still in operation in Scarborough.
Oh, this originally was part of Phase 1 then?
Yeah, absolutely, like decades ago. Wow. And it was not the operation that it is now. It was sort of the one mix suite. I think it was the Studio B. And they were just happy cutting records all day, every day, pretty much. And then sometime in the mid-'80s, there was a resurgence of mixing. It real exploded somehow, and they needed that space to take care of that part of the business, so we were evicted.
Oh, okay, there we go then.
More or less. And then late 80s, they set up shop at this particular location in North York here. So been in operation since 1974.
So you guys have pretty much done all the classic Rush stuff here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Primarily anything sort of the, I guess, the Terry Brown production stuff, the Rush era for Terry Brown. Okay,
tell everybody who Terry Brown is, just in case they don't know.
Terry Brown is a legendary producer, but he would have done, I guess, prior to sort of their more progressive material, if you're going back to Moving Pictures and before, so 2112 and that type of thing, they would have been done here by George Graves, who's still here.
Yeah, and that's just kind of freaking awesome. So these days, you guys obviously, it's changed around a little bit since I've been in here. Phil's kind of downsized his desk a little bit and just streamlined his operation even more. So
I can tell you why for sure.
Okay,
because we moved. Last time we saw each other, it was still a world of big consoles, tape machines, that type of thing. And as everything moves towards a desktop, I don't find I need to have big chunks of equipment of metal sitting in the back of the room there. It's all kind of moving towards a desktop operation.
Okay, that's cool. Well, that kind of explains a lot then.
That's the downsizing. It's basically a hard drive now as opposed to tape machines.
Okay, and but there's also, you guys are also doing acetate cutting. You guys are doing masters for vinyl now, and tell us a little bit about that.
The resurgence of vinyl has sort of been undeniable, and it's come back, and the demand has literally got us to open up that aspect of our business again. So as we saw on that tour a little bit earlier, yeah. I mean, it's we're cutting all the time, and it's exciting because it's not something that you download from the ether, this invisible thing that goes to your drive. This is like, it goes onto a piece of plastic and lasts forever.
An actual physical medium, yeah.
Yeah, you're cutting an analog groove.
If somebody wants to get something mastered for vinyl, how long are they actually going to be looking at before they can actually get something pressed?
Yeah, I would say it's very easy to get things cut or easy to get things plated, but in terms of the pressing turnaround time, because it's come back in such a large way, that sort of the previous infrastructure was somewhat crippled. So there's very few sort of pressing houses. So now you've got sort of a bottleneck happening. Okay. And you're looking at months and months to get a press done, yeah, unfortunately.
So, yeah, so there you go, guys. Vinyl is very cool. I still have a lot of vinyl. I love vinyl. But, yeah, you're going to be looking at a few months, so it's definitely not an instant fix kind of thing, like just, downloading and burning an MP3 and dumping it onto a USB stick and listening into
It's a little bit like going back to the old days where just things were done a certain way, and it wasn't as immediate as it is now. It's not like instant, recall in some workstation, and it has to be done a certain way, and there's a process. It takes time.
Yeah, exactly. But the added bonus is, you get the great big gatefolds and the photos and all that shit too. There's actually something to look at, as opposed to just meters going up and down.
The QC is much different too, right? Yeah. So, you have to get back a test pressing. The client needs to listen to the test pressing, make sure that translation from, a digital file to the analog made it okay, because it's going to change. Okay. And then they can go ahead and, put the green light on it.
Right on. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk to you about is, like I said, most of the guys watching my channel are like young guys working at their desktops, just starting to develop their skills, that kind of thing. And the big question I have is like for the guys who are coming up, who are starting to record some bands and whatnot, why should they go out of house to go get something professionally mastered? Why not just do it themselves? What is it you bring to the table?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately what we bring to the table, first and foremost, is experience. You know, we all have to go through that process to be good at anything. You have to just do it and make a lot of mistakes.
Yep.
As far as making mistakes are concerned, my biggest mistakes have been made decades ago.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like somebody said this a long time ago. Is if you're truly going to master something, a skill or something like that, you're looking at 10,000 hours.
Minimum.
Minimum.
I think for competency.
Yeah.
But if you really want to be a master, and let's face it, we all really want to make a mark in our life and do something that's worthy of people's, you know, I think, you know, you're going to have to devote your whole life to it, you know, if you want to become a master. So
okay, sorry to derail you there. Back on the subject though. So back to the desktop guy who wants to get his stuff kind of like pushed over the edge a little bit. So you're talking about how everyone having access to the same technologies. So
democratization of the tools.
Yes, go ahead.
So while everyone now has the same tools, whether you're in a $1 million facility or multi-million-dollar facility or someone at home with a laptop, we basically all have access to the same tools now. So, you know, you've got your computer program, all the plugins, everyone's using the same things. But just because you own it doesn't mean you know how to use it. Right. Or use it in its best capacity. So it's still, we like to look at it as like, well, you might own an airplane, but it doesn't necessarily mean like you know how to fly one or land it or take off for that matter either. You can, mind you, this is not flying an airplane. This is audio, so it's a different thing altogether. But I think we have to be critical about it, and I think if you're there from you know the recording stage, the mixing stage, pre-production, everything else, if you're mastering it as well, you need to have some perspective and some focus. And you might lose a bit of that perspective if you've been listening to the same project on every different level of stage of production. So I think you may want to hand it off to someone who knows what they're doing, right. Fresh perspective, and say, hey, look, you have a problem here, you know. So you want to have someone who's new, fresh ears to the project, I think.
And somebody who knows, absolutely knows exactly what they're doing. So that does make a lot of sense. I mean, like I've definitely had projects where I've been like in too deep, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, I can't do anything more with this. I've been at this for like, you know, X amount of months, and it's just, yeah, here you go.
If everyone is doing it the same way, yeah, then it's going to be very hard to get attention and your stuff noticed, because if you're doing it the same way everyone else is doing it, and chances are sounding the same way or making the same mistakes, then you want to bring someone into your production team that can give you that edge, right? I can definitely bring that edge, or someone else that's a professional mastering engineer can bring something to a project that's not necessarily afforded or available to someone who doesn't do that. Right. So if you really want to get the attention or get noticed, bring someone who has a little bit of gravity and experience with a great room, great equipment, great ears, and that will help you get your attention. I'm sure of it.
Okay, and that's the one cool thing that's really not apparent just on a small interview is that sitting in this room does sound fucking amazing. This is definitely not bedroom acoustics in here. There's some actual theory been put into this room. You know, there's I'm gonna do some cutaways here, but there's a nice big acoustic cloud we're sitting underneath, and there's no parallel walls or anything like that, and that's a big
it's not a bedroom.
No, it's definitely not.
It's not a rectangular room. It's not somewhere it's not sort of ham-fisted and put together haphazardly. It's absolutely designed for a certain criteria. So, it's the things that come out of here are going to translate. If there's a problem with your mixes that you do in your bedroom, I can hear them immediately. It's either too much bass or not enough bass.
Okay.
Yeah, most times. It's sort of one or the other. It's never in the middle. I mean, there's some people that understand they have problems, but it's very cumbersome for them because they got to go check it in the car, and they're checking headphones, and they're checking at their friend's house. So it's sort of like there's an awareness of it, but it's not a streamlined or efficient process for them.
If somebody, say, working in their bedroom wants to get their stuff mastered, what should they be sending you?
I think the biggest problem we get typically is that most projects that are mixed at home, they've never done it before, and it comes in and it's already mastered. It's already just super over modulated. It's just a big block.
So they've already put like a mastering limiter on the mixes.
Yeah. And at that point in time, that really limits what I can do. Plain and simple. Level's not hard to get, but good level can be somewhat difficult to get. But the way you get it is not necessarily just running your mix and all this time and effort that you put into this project, and then just to put a whole bunch of level on the end and send it to me. It's kind of like going to a restaurant and already cooking your own food before it gets served to you, you know?
Okay, so basically what you want to do is turn off your mastering limiter, turn off your L1s and L2s, or your slight FGXs or that kind of thing. But a little bit of bus compression is okay.
No, I think going through
especially we're talking metal mixes here. Yeah. We're talking in the context of metal mixes. So a little bus compression, like a little SSL, that kind of thing. That's
There's
cool.
nothing wrong with having, running your mixes through a master section of effects, because that's part of your glue. That's how everyone has always worked. The biggest problem, though, is that those people who run through a limiter and then they add that extra 10 or 15 dB, and then it's already distorting. Or sometimes the mix is louder than what the master would be.
Right.
So it's harder to give the client back something that's quieter than what they've sent you and expect them to pay for that.
Right, okay.
And so it's always got to be louder. So then it becomes this ridiculous pursuit of loudness.
Right. Okay. So so there you go, guys. Just turn off your L1s, turn off your L2s, turn off your FGXs. At least don't slam the living shit out of them.
We'll get the level back. We'll get it back. We can get it back.
Yeah. Volume is not what you're going for when you want to send something out for mastering. That's what the mastering engineer does, but he brings it up in a way that everything's going to sound good, not just a few frequencies.
Right.
Lacquer Channel Mastering here in Toronto. You can check them out at lacquerchannel.com.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay,
yes.
Lacquerchannel.com.
Thanks, Glenn.
Contact Phil if you want to get your stuff mastered by a real engineer, somebody who actually knows what the hell he's doing. Give Phil an email. Tell him Glenn sent you. Take care, guys.
Take care.